Hi, this is PG of PG's Lumacy. In this tutorial, we will be making the Easter lily for the Rainbow Loom Flowers Series. The colors that we will be using for this project will be white bands, lime green for the base of the flower or the calyx, and then for the stamen we will be using olive green for the filament, and neon orange for the anther for the flower. We will use the Rainbow Loom in its rectangular configuration, which means the pins will be aligned and not staggered like in the standard offset configuration. Make sure that the arrow is pointing downwards or pointing towards you. For this project, I will also be using the monster tail. This is the latest product from Rainbow Loom. It is the travel version of the regular loom. And I will also be using the metal hooks from Rainbow Loom. This is part of the upgrade kit. And they're available in different colors. And being metal, they are stronger than the regular hook that came with the Rainbow Loom. Let us start by making the petals for the lily. And we will be using single white bands on the lower 4 rows of the Rainbow Loom. And let's start by placing a chain of bands on these pins on the right. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Now let's place another chain of bands, this time on the center pins. That's 1. That's 2. And for the third one, instead of placing it on these 2 pins, we will place it diagonally from this pin to this pin. And we will place a capping band on this pin, looped 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, let us place a horizontal band on these 2 pins to hold the petal bands together. And we'll use a single band that is double looped. So we place it on the pins, and then we twist it and loop it back to form a double looped band. Now let us loop the bands for the petal. We go into the capping band and grab the band that is on top, which is this band, and then loop it to the forward pin. And then grab the other band and then loop it to the forward pin. Okay. Now let's loop the remaining bands. We need to set aside this petal because we are making 5 more. So we will secure the top loops with a toothpick and then pull the entire piece off the loom. So that will be this will be one of the petals for our lily, and we will set this aside and we will make 5 more of this piece to have a total of 6 pieces. These are the 6 petals we have made for the lily, and now let us make the stamen for the flower. We're gonna need 2 pieces for that, and we're using olive green for the filament and neon orange for the anther. And we will use the bottom 2 pins on one side of the loom to make that stamen. So grab an olive green band, and then grab a neon orange band, and then loop it 4 times on the bottom pin. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you loop the olive green band onto the forward pin, and then get the entire piece off the loom. Now form a knot with the olive green band to hold the orange band, and that will form your stamen for the flower. So you will need 1 more of this piece. We are now ready to assemble the flower on the monster tail, and we will only be using these 6 pins on the monster tail. We will be placing the petals one by one, and you will notice that we have 2 sets of loops on our petal. This pair of loops and this pair of loops. We will place these loops one at a time, one pair at a time. We will pull the toothpick off one of them and keep it on the other loop, just so it doesn't get undone. And then you grab the loop and you place it on the pin. Okay? And then carefully get the toothpick off the other pair of loops. Hold on to them and then place them on the pin next to the first one. So that will be your first petal. Okay? The 2 end loops are placed on 2 adjacent pins. Now we will place the next petal on these 2 pins, overlapping the loop from the other petal. Let's do that. You grab your next petal. Again, carefully pull the toothpick off one of the pair of loops. Hold on to it and place it on this pin. Now, get the toothpick off the other loops. You might want to use your hook. You find that easier. And then place it on this pin. So we now have 2 petals next to each other. And now for our next petal, the 2 end loops will go onto these 2 pins. Okay, let me turn that around. We will place the loops on these 2 pins. So grab your next petal. Okay, get the toothpick out of the first loop. You can use your hook to place it on this pin. Okay, and then carefully get the toothpick up off the other pair of loops using your hook. Place the loops on this pin. Okay, so you now have your third petal in place. And we will keep on adding our petals until we have them on our pins. That is your fourth petal. That is the fifth petal. Lastly, we'll place on these two pins will be our sixth petal. Okay, and then our petals will be pointing downwards. So all 6 petals are now on the monster tail. Now let us start adding the base of the flower. We will still be using white bands for that. And to add the base of the flower, we will be adding a layer of single white bands on the monster tail. It doesn't matter where you begin, as long as you place 6 bands on these pins. Okay, so we placed 6 bands in this layout on our monster tail. Now let us loop our bands, and those would be the loops from the petals. There will be 4 of them, and then 2 from the bands that we just added. We will only be looping the 4. See that? These 4 bands over here, we will grab them from the outside, okay, and get them on the hook, all 4 of them. Okay. And then carefully get them over this pin, going inwards. Okay, over the pin, inwards. Let's do that again for this pin. Remember, we're grabbing the 4 bands under and get them over the pin inwards. Okay. 4 lower bands, get them over inwards. Okay. Make sure you get all 4 bands. And then get them over. be careful not to get these two upper bands slip off the pin, or your work will be undone. Okay. Over and inwards. That is the first layer for the base. You could pull the petals from below. Okay, now we are ready to add our second layer. Just like we did before, we will add bands, single bands. Okay. And now you will see that we have 4 bands on each pin. And like we did with the first layer, this time we will be grabbing 2 bands, the 2 lower bands, and get them over and inwards. Okay, so that on the other side, we're grabbing the 2 lower bands and then get them over the pin inwards. Okay, you could pull the petals from below. That is the second layer that we just added. Now, before we add a third layer, we will put our loops together. So this loops will go to this pin. Okay. And then these loops will go to this pin. And these loops will go to this pin. So now you will see that we only have 3 pins with loops on them. And that will provide the taper for our calyx, or the base of our flower. Okay, so now let us add our third layer, and this time we are only placing 3 bands. Okay. And like we did before, we are getting our bands, our lower bands, over and inwards. And so we grab these bands, and there will be 4 of them, because remember we moved the loops. So we have 4 bands again. And then we grab all 4 bands, get them out of the pin, over, and go inwards. Okay, so here we have 4 lower bands again. Grab them and then loop them over. On the other side, grab the 4 bands and loop them over. Okay, so see, our petals are going out the bottom of the monster tail. Okay, let us add our 4th layer. Again, we place bands. Okay. And we now only have 2 lower bands. So we grab the two lower bands and get them out and over. Two lower bands out and over. Okay. And let's add a fifth layer. This will be the last white layer that we are placing. Again, grab the two lower bands and loop them over. The two lower bands over. Two lower bands over. Okay. And you'll want to get these out of here. There you go. Okay. And now we go to green to form the base or the calyx for our flower. Again, just like we did with the white bands, we're placing 3. You will notice that instead of having the band like this, I just get them out of this pin. Okay, so this is easy to see now because our lower bands are white. So we grab our two lower bands over, loop them over, over, okay, and then let's place another layer of green bands. Okay, get the bottom two bands, loop them over, over, and over. Okay. Now we will grab, there are two bands on this pin. We will grab the top one and loop it to this pin over here with the other bands. And then we will grab the other loop and loop it to this pin with the other bands. So you notice that we have again reduced the number of pins that we are using. From 3, we are now down to 2. And let's place a double loop band on these two pins. You might want to actually move all these bands to this pin. You can keep them here, but just for ease, I just simply moved the bands from this pin to this pin over here. And we will add a single band that is double looped. So twist it and then loop it back. And so we form a double loop band. And we grab the 3 lower bands and then loop them over. We grab the 3 lower bands, get them all on the hook, and then loop them over. Okay. Now, let's just keep on adding double loop bands. It depends on how long you want your stem to be. This is the stem part. So it depends on how long you want your stem to be. We added a double loop band. And then we grab the lower bands and loop them over. Okay. So let's add another double loop band. And then loop the bands over. Then if you have enough length of stem that you like, it's up to you how many double loop bands you would like to add. I'll probably add one more. And then loop over. Okay. And then when you're ready to secure or finish your project, just get the loops from one of the pins and then put them all together on the other pin. Grab a single band and secure the loops together with that single band. Form a knot and then tie securely, and then pull it off the monster tail. So there you have your Easter lily. Okay. Just stretch out the bands. Okay. And now you grab the stamen pieces and then secure them together with a green band. Just place them on the hook like so, and then secure them with a single band. Like so. And then you insert your hook from here until it gets out the middle portion of the flower, and then pull in the band that's holding the stamen pieces. Very carefully pull it out. Then you could pull until you get your stamen pieces into position, and then just tuck this band in to the stem piece until it's secured. You may want to find a way to get the stamen pieces into the layout for an improvement of this design. I just find this easier to do. Just spread out the petals and then bunch them together so they form kind of like a trumpet shape. And there you have it, the Easter lily for the Rainbow Loom Flowers Series.